welcome to Patty's Aquatics.
Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. My name is Adam and welcome to the fish room. So today what I want to do is probably another video in my series Beyond the Dirt, or if you're not familiar, it's basically a opinion piece series where I'm just going to sit here, no script, nothing planned. I'm just going to talk off the chest, off the cuff really, about certain subjects. And today I really want to talk about dirted tanks. My last dirted tank I had set up was this one back here. I did take it down. If you hadn't seen one of those past videos, I was kind of contemplating it back and forth. I was frustrated. My plants are starting to die off. I feel like the soil really was depleted of the nutrients that it needed anymore after 6 years. And so yeah, I went ahead and got rid of it. I got rid of the dirted tank, so I don't have dirted tanks any longer within my fish room. But I sort of want to talk a little bit about really what I learned keeping dirted tanks over the last 6 years. I want to talk about maybe some of the myths about it, but also I want to talk about the social aspect of dirted tanks in the community and just some of the craziness, but also some of the camaraderie that's really there as well. And I guess lastly, to really start all this, I guess, to start any journey or any story, there's always a beginning. And really for my beginning was, it would have been, I guess, if 6 years ago, would have been around that COVID time when I was looking for something new to try. Now, if you've watched my channel at all over the last 3 years I've been on YouTube, I like to change things up. I don't hide that. I admit it. I'm not a person that loves to keep things forever and ever and ever. I get bored. I want to change things. And at that time, I decided I wanted to try something different. I was watching videos on YouTube. I came across Dustin's fish tanks, and he was doing dirted tanks, and it intrigued me. I thought, let's try this. But I'm a cheapskate. I do not like to buy stuff online that often, especially when it came to like his dirt he was selling, or his, I don't remember what I think he was selling bags of dirt or something. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it all myself. That's more fun of it for me, to be able to try to DIY stuff and try to figure things out on my own and kind of do that. So that's when I started to do some digging online to try to figure out, well, what kind of dirt do I put in there? I mean, I don't want to put anything in there that's going to wind up killing my fish. That's when I came across some Father Fish videos. At that time, he was not big on YouTube. His videos I seen where it looked like he was back in Florida at his old shop. Went over some of the ingredients he uses for his soil. I wrote some of them down. I went to my local hardware store. I picked a few of them out, not all of them. And I mixed my soil up and I put it in there. I started with the gravel cap, because I really wasn't sure. I used that tank for a little while. I really liked it. So then I kind of got fascinated and I started a few more like that. So I did a few with gravel caps and a few with sand caps. And eventually I wound up being completely obsessed and I changed my entire fish room over to dirted tanks. And then eventually over to all sand cap, the more I started to listen to Father Fish and his videos, and I kind of pushed the limits on a lot of it too. Like, you know, I did an Oscar tank with a dirted tank and plants. I know that's one thing that a lot of people said would never work out, and it did. I put egg crate underneath the sand cap so it would never be able to dig down, and got that Oscar in there as a young fish to be able to be used to those plants, and it worked. I have my Fahaka puffer I had in a 75 gallon. I had that in a dirted tank. That was successful as far as that goes. But I also did the no filter thing for a while. Now that's not a Father Fish thing, and I think that's a big misconception that people will tell me in the comments that he uses filters. I never said that he didn't. I actually got that from LRB Aquatics. Again, that was another area of me just trying to push boundaries and trying to enjoy my hobby and figure things out. And I ran an entire fish room with no filters, no air, and all dirted tanks. And on the outside, seemingly everything looked great. Things were doing great. Now, I had struggles with my tanks along, and I never disclosed that. I've always had algae issues. would have cloudy water, bacteria booms pop up once in a while, especially in the beginning. Some of that hair algae was just thick. But what I found over time is a lot of the tanks I had started having issues with plant growth. And some of them are because of the cap that I had on there. I had used a beach sand, which was very fine. And some people may disagree, but I have a feeling that it really compacted a lot of my roots, especially some of like my puffer tank and my Oscar tank, because I had a thicker cap. And I think those roots never made it down to the soil layers. Some of my other tanks, I had a lot better plant growth with that same cap, but it wasn't as thick of a cap. So obviously the roots would make that to the soil layer and go. My initial tank here, like I said, I started at gravel, switched it over to sand eventually, and that was growing great. It did great. It was about, we're at 6 years. It's about year 5.5. That's when I started to notice a little bit of depletion, like my dwarf sage in there. I had it was full of dwarf sage and some crypts. I could see my dwarf sage was starting to die back a little bit, and then my crypts were starting to not look as full as they used to be. It was at that time when I was really like, do I want to continue doing this? And like I said, if you follow my channel at all, about a year ago, I decided to cut back and I switched over a lot of my tanks away from dirted tanks. I only kept about, I think it was like 3 of them at that time. And I got out all the rest. I went back to the basics, basically. I went back to gravel and sand and kind of tested with filters as well, and kind of tested to see what was the best option for me and my fishermen and what I was looking for. And for me, I found I really like gravel a lot better. Like I said, back to the basics. I'm growing plants so much better in my gravel. Now, do they grow as good as in dirt? No, I don't think you're going to find an equal when it comes to plant growth as you do with dirt. But it also has its downfalls. Like like I said, there are people that'll say that these dirted tanks are self-sufficient, that you don't ever have to touch them. It's just not true. They're not self-sufficient. You have to do some type of maintenance with them. And like someone told me once, it's like, if you don't do anything with your tanks, like what's the point of having them? I mean, I agree with that. I said, I want to stick my hands in my tanks. I want to play around. That's part of the hobby and part of the fun, is to create this system. At least that's for me. I mean, maybe someone enjoys not doing anything with their tanks. And if that's the case, that's completely fine. But, also another thing is like that the soil, in my opinion, and from my experience of seeing them, will deplete eventually. I found that out with this one. This was 6 years, like I said, before it depleted. Some of the other ones, it didn't last as long. And my first Beyond the Dirt video that I put out about this, there were so many people that commented on it, and I still get views and comments on this video. And there's a lot of people that agreed with me and said the exact same thing about how they tried this dirted tank this way and it just did not work out, and was seeing the same things I was seeing. So there's just a lot of things that I just don't agree with. This is probably the last time I'm ever going to bring up Father Fish, because I'm beyond that. I'm like, I don't, like, a lot of people will think I despise him or I don't like him like that. I don't know the man. I don't have a feeling towards him personally. I'm just, as a hobbyist, and seeing some of the things, like, I don't watch his channel anymore, but some of the things he taught when I was watching those are very back and forth. Like, it tells you to do one thing one day, and then the next time you see it, it's a different thing. But if you go watch an old video, it's completely different. It's very confusing for someone, especially possibly a new hobbyist or someone trying to get into the hobby, and it could definitely make someone fail. And I wasn't happy. I don't like that, as a hobbyist view of it. Now, people are going to disagree with me. People have disagreed with me, and that's completely fine. That's your opinion. I don't personally like it. I see what he does more as marketing than it is longevity of what you're actually doing, of teaching. Like, I would have more respect for what he says if, I guess, you're more like truthful in what you said. Like, hey, You can buy my additive. It definitely can probably help your plants in your tank, but it doesn't mean it's going to last forever. Or, hey, let's talk about resurrection jars again. Like, I haven't talked about that. You can collect these resurrection jars. You can watch them for 30 days. But there is no guarantee that you're going to put something in your tank that shouldn't be in there. You can do your best to, but there's always that possibility. I'd have more respect if it was something like that. But what happens a lot, and I found this myself when I came out and said something about not supporting him anymore, people say, well, you're doing it wrong. It's your fault. Well, you must have done something wrong. That's not what he said. So that's what gets frustrating to me, especially with the social aspect of it. I learned a whole heck of a lot when I put that first Beyond the Dirt video out. Like I said, lots of comments supporting, but there were still quite a few comments of people that just, in my opinion, didn't get it. And some of them within his inner circle that decided to try to bash me, call me names, lie about me. Heck, I had one person comment on a video of mine and told me that they posted one of my Beyond the Dirt videos on their Discord, the Fatherfish Discord, and told people to go report it to try to get me in trouble. Like, really? I'm a nobody in YouTube. If I'm really tripping your trigger that much, that must mean I'm telling some type of truth, in my opinion. So, like I said, but there is a huge majority of people that love to keep dirted tanks and are not like that. And that's the kind of people that I appreciate and enjoy listening to. Like, I have no problem listening to people talk about what they love about dirted tanks. And I'll probably agree with a lot of it. I just don't agree with a lot of what Father Fish says. I don't agree with the no water change things, although it's not no water change now, it's only when needed. It goes back and forth. So like I said, I cut him out of the equation. Like what I don't like the most is why, when you talk about a dirted tank, why does it have to be centered around Father Fish? He didn't create them. I have more respect of following more of Wallstead than him. That's just my opinion. But anyway, dirted tanks, what I learned is that I think it's definitely an interesting experiment to try. If you're someone like me that has numerous tanks, and I mean numerous tanks, and you're always looking for something new, I mean, take a 10-gallon tank or something and set it up with dirt and try it. I mean, I don't think there's any reason why someone who's like me that has multiple tanks, that if you want to try something different, to try it with one tank once and just experiment with it. Because on the flip side of things, where there's a lot of people that want to talk negatively about me for not supporting Father Fish, there's also people on the other side that want to bash Father Fish and want to bash people that keep dirted tanks and that have never kept one before. They just want to call them, like I've heard, swamp tanks and stuff like that. But we're not all like that. I don't like that everyone gets clumped into this one classification. I always did water changes. I think water changes are a necessity in our closed systems of tanks that we have. I just didn't have to do them as frequently. I did them maybe every 2 months or so. But I've always believed in water changes. So there are different aspects and different, I guess, levels of people within this dirted tank community. And sometimes we all get clumped together because of, in my opinion, one bad seed. Again, this is my opinion. No one else has to agree with me, but that's just my opinion. But in the end, I guess, what did I learn? I learned that dirted tanks are a cool thing to experiment with. I've learned that they are not self-sufficient. Unless you're someone like LRB that keeps a tank out and is outside and he throws his stuff in there and he just doesn't touch it again, that'd be the only way I'd be able to say that you have like a self-sufficient, self-sustaining aquarium. I had someone once in a comment tell me that theirs is self-sustaining. They don't do anything. They keep their windows open so bugs can fly in and the fish can eat it off the surface. They take their rain gutters and they bring it in the house and put it into their tank so when it rains, it tops the water off. okay. So, like, that's what I said. Comments are just like crazy out there. How much of it's true, how much is not. It's just, they're not self-sufficient. They're just not. As much as we want them to be, they're not. We still have lights on them. We still have filters. We still feed our fish. Things along that nature. Now, the whole food web resurrection jar thing, like I touched on before, I am so adamantly against this. I tried those in all my tanks, or just about all of them. I got nothing but just hammered by planaria worms in every single one of my aquariums I put them in. I did watch my jars for well over 30 days, but yet I still got pointed fingers to saying I did it wrong. You must have did it wrong. You didn't do it right then. I did, and still got hit with them. And so I will never do that again. I just don't think it's a good idea. I think if you want to add some type of microorganisms within your aquarium, your best bet possibly is to look up someone like Phillips Fish Works and stuff like that, that maybe sources them and not take them from the wild. Because on top of that, if you're taking a jar of a handful of something in water from a water source, how are you to know that water isn't polluted or have some kind of toxin in it? You don't know this. And that's what I mean. You can watch a jar for a year if you want to. You don't know what the water is unless you have a microscope and you have some type of biology background to be able to check that out. So again, that's another thing I learned. If you want my opinion, stay away from them. Your choice, but if you do, be very wary. And then I guess, like I mentioned, the water change thing. I think water changes are a necessity, but in the end, I feel like Dirta tanks are a cool little experiment. That's what it was an experiment, and they're really not beyond that. You know, someone told me once that this is just a trend, this Dirta tank thing, and I kind of feel he was right, and I definitely moved on from it. I'm not doing Dirta tanks anymore. Would I ever do a Dirta tank anymore? I can never say never, but if I would, I guarantee you it would probably be Wolstead method. Someone that has actually have some scientific things proven behind their method. But other than that, yeah, this is the goodbye journey for Dirta tanks for me. Probably will see no more videos when it comes to Dirta tanks, and this will be definitely probably the last time I ever mention the old man in it. Unless something comes backlash to me, then maybe I will, but I don't plan on it. I plan on doing what I'm doing, just enjoying my hobby and showing what I'm doing with plants and gravel and different types of fish, and enjoying that and showing that you can do everything in this hobby. There's a place for everything. There truly is. You just got to find what best fits you and not listen to what the internet tells you half the time, and just figure it out for yourself. And that's probably the best lesson I got out of this, is that learning for myself with my own two eyes is probably the best advice anything I could give myself or give anyone else, is to just figure it out for yourself, because anyone out there is, well, you just never know. So anyway, I'm rambling on long enough here, but that's what this kind of video is me just shooting from the hip, and this is what it is. All right. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again next week here at Patty's Aquatics.